before we move on to looking at some of the major differences between the Old and the New Covenant, I mean, it's silly to even look at differences, but sadly, because the church has mixed the Old and the New Covenant so much, it is vital that we actually look at the difference so that we can know the difference between the two. Now, Jesus is all the difference, really. Jesus is the difference between the Old and the New Covenant. And it's important for us to understand that. But before we get there, I just wanted to bring out a scripture from Galatians 5:11. It says, "And now, brethren, if I yet preach circumcision, why do I yet suffer persecution? Then is the offense of the cross ceased?" Yeah. Basically, I just want to bring out from there that the offense of the cross is offensive. The gospel, the true gospel, is offensive. There's a lot of things out there which people are calling gospel, and it's not gospel. Not at all. Okay? There is a true gospel. The true gospel points to what Jesus has done, not what I have to do. It points to what He has done. Okay? And it's that the scripture shows us, and more than just this scripture, that the gospel is offensive. And so, I'm probably going to offend a lot of people with the things I'm going to say, and I've just come to terms with that because I already have offended a lot of people. But what I want you to see, the gospel, if you accept this gospel, it is liberating. It will set you free. You will experience joy, freedom, hope, life on a level which you cannot experience under performance, under legalism, because that is just pure bondage. So if we look at Luke 5, verses 36 to 39, we see this wonderful picture which is painted of, we can't put new wine into old wineskins. But what that scripture is basically just saying is, it first of all uses the picture of a new cloth sewn onto an old garment, and how when it washes, it'll just tear it and it's not going to be any good. It's a new cloth sewn on an old garment in Jesus' day would basically shrink the first time that it was washed and would tear the old garment that had already shrunk. That's what it's basically saying, and would make the whole worse. This is basically illustrating that Jesus did not come to patch up the old Mosaic covenant. He didn't come to just patch it up. He came to replace it. We see that in Hebrews 7 verses 18 and 19. Then it speaks about the new wine and the old wineskins, like I said. And new wine is basically wine which is not fermented yet. It has to be put into new or reconditioned wineskins to allow the expansion of the gases within the skin, as a result of the fermentation process. Otherwise, the old wineskin that had already been stretched would simply just burst. And you'd have, the wine out ruined. You can't use it. The wineskin ruined. And, this is also just showing us that the Old Testament laws could never stretch far enough to accommodate New Testament truths of mercy and grace. We can check that out in Hebrews 10, 1 to 10. So we see that, Jesus didn't come to just patch up the old Mosaic covenant. He came to replace it. He didn't come, the Old Testament laws could never stretch far enough to accommodate New Testament realities, New Testament truths of grace and mercy. Jesus has set us free from all of this, the old covenant, and ushered us into something which is much better. Much, much, much better. It's important for us to realize these things, because these things that we're talking about basically affect the way that we're going to experience our relationship with God. It is going to affect the way that we relate to God. The old covenant is like an operating system, and you're not going to be able to function at all in the new covenant with the old mindset or old way of doing things, the old way of thinking of things, the old operating system. You need to change your thoughts, change your thinking, and get into the new. So let's look a bit at the old versus the new in the next video.